situation along the line of actual control, I would say, remains stable, but is sensitive. Our talks and dialogue, both at the military level as well as at the diplomatic level, continue with the adversary. Our deployment remains robust as well as balanced, and we are also maintaining adequate reserves in all these sectors that you talk of to be able to deal with any contingency. We are also working alongside other government agencies, the local administration and the local population to make sure that our preparedness levels along the LAC always remain high.
Major areas of focus of the government in the last few years has been indigenization and achieving Atmanirbharta in defense sector especially. What are the steps that have been taken by the Indian Army to promote Atmanirbharta and indigenization in the armed forces, sir?
Thank you, Ajit, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. One of the important lessons from the pandemic and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict is the need for us to become self-reliant and reduce our import dependency in defense equipment to near zero. Added to this is the fact that we also want to leverage the innovation potential as well as the vibrant startup ecosystem in our country. Now, with this in view, we are laying emphasis on Atmanirbharta in defense production. And if I may, I feel there are 4 essential building blocks to develop a military industrial technology ecosystem. And these are resource allocation. Second is enabling government policies and provisions. Third is a viable market, and fourth is competition.
Which has been talked about a lot in the recent past, and there's a lot of interest in it.
Right. So the Army Design Bureau, as I mentioned, is central to our modernization and indigenize efforts. As on date, the Army Design Bureau is looking at close to 350 design and development as well as research and development projects in which they are engaging with about 450 industries, including the DRDO. And in terms of the cost, it comes to about 1.8 lakh crores. So this is what the Army Design Bureau is doing.
With 1.8 lakh crore worth of equipment
projects that we are looking at through the indigenous research and development route. If I were to further amplify, under the Make One scheme, we currently have 53 projects which are in progress, out of which contracts have been signed for 2 projects. Then we have the design and development projects with the DRDO, where we have 54 of the projects which are going on. In the innovation for defense excellence, under this route, we have close to 50 odd projects, of which 4 contracts have already been signed. At the field army level, we have to our field formations what we refer to as the Innovation, Research and Development Fund. So this is the provision which has been given to them to further progress projects in this line. And with the DRDO itself, we have 6 ongoing technology development front projects and another close to 50 projects which we are progressing with the academia through art track, through the route of Army Technology Board. So these are various methods by which we are parallelly moving in terms of indigenization or Atmanirbhar projects. You also asked as to which are the areas or the key focus areas. If I were to say in terms of infantry, we are looking at better weapon system, individual weapon system, better sights, better protections in terms of bulletproof jackets, bulletproof patkas for our soldiers. For the artillery, we are looking at more accurate, precise and long-range rockets. I can give you examples of Pinaka, wherein we are looking at better ammunition and armament for the Pinaka rocket systems. In the armored or for the tanks, we are looking at better night enablement, better protection for our tanks. Likewise, for the artillery, we are moving towards mediumization or 100% mediumization of our RT systems. In the field of Army aviation, we have the light combat helicopter, 6 of which are already been inducted. We have the light utility helicopters, which will replace our Chetak Cheetah fleet in due course. And lastly, for Army Air Defense, we already have contracts for 2 Akash regiments and 2 MRSAM regiments, besides the Akash Tir software. The emergency procurement provision, which were granted to us, we've been able to utilize this to further the Atmanirbhar initiative, wherein in the last EP4 tranche, we were able to conclude 86 contracts worth about 12,000 crores. And last year, out of 86 contracts for which we have obtained AON, all of them are indigenous. So in a way, for the Army, near 100% of our procurements in the last year and in the future are going to be through the indigenous route.
Tank project. Can you tell us the status of the project, sir, and how important is it to the Indian Army, sir?
So light tank, as the name suggests, is a tank which we are looking for employment in our high altitudes areas and mountains. We had the AON, or acceptance of necessity, granted to us about a year back for a total of tanks, out of which 59 are through the design and development route, which the DRDO is pursuing, and the balance 295 are through the Make One route. Now, in response to our interest which we had put out, there are close to 6 to 7 indigenous defense industries who have expressed their interest. We are now processing them so that we narrow down to 2 development partners, and then we will issue project sanction orders to them. And thereafter, I reckon within a period of 30 months, we will have the light tank which will be fielded for trials.
And this would be followed by the light tank? Sorry.
Yes, for the FRCV, we still have to get the AON, but all our basic homework, spade work is ready, and we shall soon be projecting it for approval, or in principle approval of the government for production.
Sir, last couple of years we have been seeing a lot of innovators coming up in the Army. Earlier it was a few officers, now we are seeing men, JCOs, officers, everybody is contributing towards innovation. How is it being done, and sir, how important is it for the Army?
You ask a very important question. Our defense innovation ecosystem comprises the experiential knowledge of our officers, JCOs, other ranks who are actually using the equipment in field. Then you have our academic experts who work in our Category A training establishments who also contribute towards this. And thirdly, we have the civil defense workforce who work in our workshops and in our manufacturing units. So through these 3 routes, we want to leverage the innovation potential. Now, once we have identified the need, and once these proposals have come up through these 3 routes, it is the Army Design Bureau thereafter which does a technology and the operational necessity kind of a check. We identify as to which are the projects which have potential and which need to be taken forward. Very recently, we have collaborated with IIT Delhi, you would remember, and we have got into an MOU with them, with their organization called Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer, so that through this, once the innovation which have the potential, the technology of it can be transferred to certain private vendors for larger production. Very recently, there is a project called Vidyut Rakshak, wherein one of your, yes, so he was working, or he has been working in IIT for the last couple of years, and this innovation and this technology for generators and management of electricity power requirements in the field has now been transferred to one of the vendors, and we will now produce it in larger numbers. I must also mention here of our patents which we have been applying to get intellectual property rights for our innovators. We had a total of 66 cases, out of which 11 patents have already been granted. There are 5 for which we have received the copyrights, and for another 5, the technology registration has taken place. So this is another way which we want to encourage our innovators.
Now this is January 24, and it's always been 4 years since we had seen attempts to alter the status quo on the LAC. Can you tell us, sir, how is the overall security situation along the northern borders, especially Ladakh and Arunachal areas, and how prepared is the Indian Army to tackle the challenges, whether it is these winters or...
Right, so the situation along the line of actual control, I would say, remains stable, but is sensitive. In the last 1 year or thereabouts, we haven't had any more friction areas in this. In terms of our efforts at resolution, our talks and dialogue, both at the military level as well as at the diplomatic level, continue with the adversary. We have had total of 20 senior higher military commander levels meetings and 14 WMCC meetings since April of 2020. So the means of these talks, we hope and we are hopeful that we'll find a resolution to the balance two issues. In terms of what is our preparedness levels, I would say our deployment remains robust as well as balanced, and we are also maintaining adequate reserves in all these sectors that you talk of to be able to deal with any contingency. While this is happening, we are also focusing on our capability development in these areas in terms of infusion of technology, modernization, inducting better systems such as our protected vehicles, surveillance drones, better communication radio sets, etc. Simultaneously, our effort and focus has also been on infrastructure development, be it the habitat, be it the forward connectivity to the line of actual control, or strategic road connectivity, all whether in terms of alternate routes of induction. It also includes extending power supply to our forward troops, improving communication in terms of 5G communication to our troops deployed in forward areas. We are also working alongside other government agencies, the local administration, and the local population to make sure that our preparedness levels along the LAC always remain high.
Sir, since we have you have already talked in LAC, can you tell us about the made in India weapon systems which have been deployed on the forward areas, sir? Because we had seen that during one of our visits, and we felt very happy to see troops using those weapons.
So I mentioned to you about our infantry protected mobility vehicles or protected vehicles, wheeled vehicles, which give you both protection as well as high mobility to deal with any such situation. We are also having drones and UAVs of different types, right from a micro UAV which gives you a range of 500 meters to a kilometer, and moving up to mini UAVs. We have the male and hail category of remote-led piloted aircraft systems. In terms of habitat, survivability, which we are utilizing the 3D printing technology for A, constructing our habitat, B, improving our defense works. So these are some of the areas where the new technology or even niche technologies we are able to utilize in forward areas. The quantum computing, through this, we are in the final stages of the trials, and I think once that happens, we'll have secure or better secure communication through the quantum computing, encryption and technology.
How is the overall security situation along the line of control, where we have seen in recent past the Pakistani side has been trying to revive terrorism, especially in the Rajouri Poonch area? What are the measures that have been taken by the force to counter that, sir?
If I were to give you figures of last year, that is 2023, the violence levels, I would say, have come down. We have had total of 71 terrorists who were eliminated in J&K, of which 35 were in the hinterland and another 36 were as a result of successful counter-infiltration operations. So the overall violence levels have come down. However, you mentioned of the recent spurt in activities in the Rajouri Poonch sector, which is something which we are currently addressing. And what is it that we are doing to address this situation? I would list out 5-6 major issues. A, we have strengthened and reoriented our deployment both along the line of control, along the anti-infiltration obstacle system, as well as in the hinterland. B, we are further improving our intelligence gathering in concert with the police, in concert with other agencies, as well as improving the TechInt or the technological intelligence capability. The synergy between all the agencies that are operating there, including the local police, the other CFPFs, that is something which is again being paid attention to. We are trying to use technology in a more meaningful and an effective way to again counter the designs in these areas. So I would say that our operations to counter terrorists both along the LC as well as in the hinterland will continue in a relentless manner, and I am very confident that in due course we will be able to address this issue effectively.
And sir, force, TechInt, human, all these have been strengthened. Does it mean inducting more troops have been sent, or it's the troops which are already present, they have been reoriented and in this area especially?
So I would say it's an ongoing process, and I mentioned about reorientating the deployment, inducting some additional forces where required, inducting some additional technology and additional equipment. So this is part of our entire activities that we are presently undertaking.
Sir, lastly, I want to ask priorities as the Chief of Army Staff in this year 2024, and how would you like to see the Army shaping up in this year, sir?
So the top of the list is to maintain very high levels of operational preparedness, be it along the LAC or the LC, as also in other areas where we are currently committed, such as in internal security situations in other parts of the country. So that remains our topmost priority. You would recall last year we had laid down a framework for transformation of the Indian Army, and wherein I had defined 5 distinct pillars of or areas where we will focus on. I am happy to say that we have made good progress under all these 5 pillars or domains. We need to continue work on these with the same momentum. There is a lot of positivity, ownership by commanders at all levels for all the transformation initiatives. So this is something which we will continue to progress. This year we are following as the year for technology absorption. So this is one area where we are now going to be consolidating. So besides inducting new technology, new equipment, we also need to work out operational philosophies, concepts for their employment, the tactics, techniques, procedures, as well as the maintenance support. So this is going to be one of our focus areas. So while these two things are happening, our continuing efforts towards capability development through Atmanirbharta will continue to get the same focus, attention, and impetus. Besides, in terms of our defense cooperation activities with other countries, we wish to further enhance the scope and extent of these activities. The human resource management aspect, the Agnipath scheme, of which the first 2 or 3 batches have already, the soldiers have moved on to the units. So this is something, their assimilation, their integration, and their management is an area which we'll have to continuously focus on, and which we are currently doing. And lastly, our effort to engage with other departments, agencies of the government in support of all our initiatives is something which we will continue to lay emphasis on as we move forward.